Well, we're going to hear some interesting comments. Dave Andrew, who is Vice President, New Market Development for ExxonMobil Product Solutions Company, will share specifics and examples about how ExxonMobil is growing a sustainable part of our industry, advanced recycling. Dave?
So, good afternoon, and well, thank you, Dennis, for that kind introduction. I'd like to start by thanking the Houston Port Economic Alliance for this opportunity to be with you all today. I think the companies represented here in this room are critical to the jobs and the economic prosperity of this Gulf Coast region. Many of you are in the petrochemical industry, and like myself, you're spending probably a lot of your time these days working on ways to reduce emissions and reduce waste while still providing the critical products and energy that society demands and needs. And for me, that focus is on plastics and increasing the amount of plastics that can be recycled. Because of the expertise we have here in the Gulf Coast, we have an opportunity to lead the nation, but also the world in increasing the amount of plastics that can be recycled, while also reducing our emissions through collaborations, and new technology. You know, this is an area I've been focused on for a few years as Vice President of Sustainability of the ExxonMobil Chemical Company, and now as the Vice President of New Market Development, which is a new group that we created in ExxonMobil to house our advanced recycling venture, among other interesting projects. I'd like to start today first by going through the critical role that plastics play in society and as an economic engine for our Gulf Coast region. Then I'd like to go through some of the challenges that we're facing with waste and how the combination of waste management and new advanced recycling technologies can help address the plastic waste challenge. And finally, I want to talk about some of the projects, some of the doing that we're executing at ExxonMobil alongside others to address the plastic waste challenge in Houston and beyond. Like many of your companies, we at ExxonMobil like to think of ourselves as leaders in producing high-performance chemicals and plastic products. Plastics play a critical role in all of our lives. You know, from the loaf of bread that's wrapped in plastic to keep it fresh at the breakfast table, to the face masks and syringes that kept us safe during the pandemic. Plastics also play a critical role in helping to enable lower emission technologies, such as the plastic parts that make our cars lighter and therefore more fuel efficient, or the plastics that go into the solar panels, or the wind turbine blades and other low-emission technologies. Some of you may have seen the recent McKinsey company report about GHG benefits of using plastics instead of alternative materials. The study shows that when plastic is tested against these alternative materials, so materials such as glass, aluminum, steel, paper, the plastics win. In fact, in 13 out of 14 common examples, plastics demonstrate a lower GHG life cycle analysis versus those alternative materials. And the results are between 10 and 90% lower GHG emissions over that life cycle. 13 out of 14 examples. And because of these benefits, plastic demand is expected to grow even faster than GDP, helping to support improved quality of life for billions of people around the world and help support those in the impoverished nations to enter the growing global middle class. Even the International Energy Agency's net zero by 2050 scenario shows that demand for chemicals is expected to grow 30% versus 2020. And half of that demand is from plastics due to their critical role in lowering emissions and enabling low-emission technologies. And with this increase in plastics demand, it also means economic growth for our region. Right here along the Gulf Coast, which is the home of some of the largest, most efficient, and safest petrochemical complexes in the world. And as we all know, billions of dollars are expected to be spent in this region with the creation of hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs over the next few years on petrochemical expansion projects, as well as new advanced recycling projects, including some of the projects I'd like to talk to you today about. Well, at the same time, we at ExxonMobil, and I think as an industry, we share society's concern about plastic waste. It's a challenge that can and must be addressed. We need to increase infrastructure and technology, investments across both industry and governments to address this issue, so that plastics can be turned into valuable products as opposed to ending up in landfills, incineration, or even worse, the environment. Today it's estimated that about only 9% of plastics around the world are recycled. But with new technology, we can change that, and we must. For me, this issue came into focus when I joined the sustainability group about 5 years ago. At that time, I quite honestly knew nothing about sustainability. I've been in the petrochemical industry for about 25 years. And so I wanted to better understand what the challenge was. And so I spent a couple of weeks, actually more than that, better part of a month, walking through the landfills of Southeast Asia, particularly Indonesia, visiting the communities around the edges of these landfills, which make up the informal waste pickers that support the informal waste economies of Southeast Asia. We walked the rivers, walked the estuaries, walked the beaches, to see firsthand what the impact of poor waste management can have on people, communities, and the environment. The trip energized me to address a fundamental question, and it's this. It's, how can we work together as industry, governments, communities, and consumers to create a system that addresses the pollution issue, accelerates recycling, while still enjoying these critical benefits that plastics deliver? This is not an issue about banning plastics. This is an issue of addressing waste management infrastructure. And I believe the answer starts with technology. When it comes to recycling, traditional mechanical recycling, which is important, been around for a long time, has its limitations. Mechanical recycling is good for things that are made out of one type of plastic, things like water bottles on the tables, milk jugs, and things like that. Easy to sort, easy to process. Right? We need more mechanical recycling. And in fact, it's good to see a lot of the folks, a lot of the companies in this room investing in that technology. However, the challenge is that waste is dirty, and it comes with contaminants, and plastic containers contain more than one type of plastic, different layers and different films and things like that, and they're hard to recycle, so we need new technology. Also, every time plastic goes through that loop, mechanically it tends to break down and lose some of its performance. So we need chemical ways of rejuvenating the plastic to virgin quality. Advanced recycling is what we're working on at ExxonMobil, helps to expand the circle. The process, as you've probably seen, involves the use of chemistry, the power of chemistry, to convert streams of mixed plastic waste back into molecular building blocks so that those molecules can be sent back through our very petrochemical facilities to become new virgin quality products, including the plastics that we use every day. And in addition to manufacturing these virgin quality feedstocks for new products, advanced recycling can also expand the number and types of plastics so that we can get to a solution where all plastics can be recycled. Things like food packaging and bubble wrap and motor oil bottles, detergents, the flexible things, the chip bags that have the aluminum foil on the inside, and even the turf that your kids will probably play football on this afternoon. And importantly, the advanced recycling process I'm going to talk to you about at Baytown, that's actually up and running and operational today, has a lower GHG footprint compared to processing equivalent amounts of crude-based fossil feed. In fact, we commissioned a study with a company called Sphera, kind of a life cycle company, that helped us to look at the carbon footprint of our technology. And we found that processing plastic waste through our technology results in a 19 to 49% lower GHG footprint than processing the same amount of conventional feed. So, in addition to kind of strengthening circularity, in addition to increasing recycling, we've got a GHG beneficial solution as well. And advanced recycling, you know, it's not just theory. It's actually happening. It's not something that's in the lab. It's not something that's in pilot scale. We're doing it today, and it has real potential to address this issue. You know, we're already processing a range of mixed plastic waste through our advanced recycling facility at Baytown, just down the road here. And I'd like to share with you just one example of what we can process. You know, earlier this week, we announced a program with a company called Tenkate Grass, where we're bringing artificial turf from California, and we're recycling it right here in the state of Texas, just down the road in Baytown. You know, synthetic turf, or as you probably refer to it as AstroTurf, given the fact that it was first used in the Houston Astrodome, where it got its name, is often used in landscaping and sports venues, particularly in areas where you've got low water availability and kind of a water stress environment like California. In fact, there's a lot of natural grass fields being ripped up and put in with artificial turf in California for sustainability reasons. However, turf, when it reaches end of life, doesn't have much value, and it ends up piling up in either in a landfill. A lot of it actually is sitting out in the Arizona desert, actually. Or it's downcycled into lower value products like park benches and things like that. So instead of that fate, we're working with Tenkate Grass to recycle that artificial turf using that advanced recycling technology at Baytown. You know, in fact, we've got a couple of shipments already en route, and we're going to be processing it in the next couple of weeks, converting grass, artificial turf, into high-performance materials. So in addition to that one small example, we've processed about 5,000 metric tons since we started up our facility last year. And we're on track to start up a larger scale facility in the next couple of months. So by December of this year, we'll be able to process about 30,000 tons of plastic waste per year right here in the state of Texas. And this feat has required a lot of hard work. And you see some of the people on the picture there, the folks that have been involved in this project. And it's really kind of harnessed the passion, the creativity of a lot of young people and old people, the millennials and the baby boomers in our organization, to kind of do what we think is the right thing to do. And thanks to this team, I think we're making really quick progress, and we're getting new circular products on the shelves across the nation and around the world. You know, through advanced recycling, we're able to make sales to to customers, our existing customers and new customers, of something that's called certified circular plastics. And I think you'll hear more about this as we go forward. Essentially, it's using a third party, in this case, the International Sustainable Carbon Certification Organization, or ISCC, and they certify essentially the circularity of a plastic based on the mass balance of the feed that you bring into the facility. And this certification approach is very similar to what's done on the green energy markets with renewable energy credits that are issued today. Very, very similar approach. These new certified circular plastics are being used right now in food packaging. We're working with well-known brands, including a collaboration we have with Delays. They're actually a major, Food Lion, they go by as well, which is a major grocery group on the East Coast of the US. So in this collaboration, We're collecting waste from the grocery stores, shopper bags, and shrink film on back store operations. And then we're leveraging this advanced recycling process to convert it into new plastics, new food packaging. So it's a good example of a circular solution for the grocery store industry, where we're taking waste all the way through to new food packaging, safe food packaging that can be used in a number of applications. And we plan to scale this technology across the US. We've got a number of projects underway, and also around the world, because we know this issue of plastic waste is a global one. So leveraging what we're learning in Baytown, we plan to build about 500,000 tons of advanced recycling capacity, annual capacity, by 2026, multiple sites across our global portfolio. We've got facilities in France, Canada, Belgium, Netherlands, Singapore, and other countries in Southeast Asia, as well as multiple sites across the US. To use an analogy, just to put that figure into perspective, that's about the same as processing 5,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools full of plastic waste every year, as opposed to sending it to landfill or incinerating it. So the technology is exciting. I'm quite excited about it, actually. It's probably one of the most exciting things I've done in my career. Maybe it tells you something about my career, but but there's an urgent challenge, not just in the technology, but in the infrastructure for collecting and sorting of plastic waste. And this is not just a challenge for Indonesia or Southeast Asia or the Philippines. It affects us here right on the Gulf Coast. We have millions of Americans that don't have access to any recycling program, particularly here in Houston, let alone the structure to support the collection of all plastics and use some of these more advanced technologies. So at ExxonMobil, we're working alongside communities to make a change in that. We're including the city of Houston, of which I think we've got a few members in the audience today. About a year ago, I reached out to Andy Eakin, the city. I think many of you know Andy. He's the Chief Development Officer for the city. And we were sharing a little bit about technology and what we can do with the Baytown technology, and really looking about how can we make a real significant impact on Houston's recycling rate and the sustainability goals for the city. Out of that conversation, we brought in some other players, members across the value chain. LyondellBasell, one of the other large petrochemical companies here on the Gulf Coast, who are also investing in advanced recycling technology. FCC Environmental, which is actually the largest recycler in the state of Texas, which owns the MRF, or the Materials Recovery Facility here in Houston, as well as in Dallas and other areas. We brought in a company that we actually formed a couple of years ago called Cyclics, that's in the business of trying to build new advanced sorting centers that can both send material to advanced and mechanical recycling. You know, with these parties together, we formed what we call the Houston Recycling Collaboration, and the mission of that group is pretty clear. It's to increase the recycling rate for the city of Houston for all plastics, not just the ones and twos, the water bottles and the milk jugs, but all plastics. And to do it in real time, not a longer-term ambition, to actually start working the problem now. Specifically, we're focused on 3 areas. First and foremost, it's expanding access for residential homes, as well as for apartment and commercial businesses. In fact, I think that most of the multifamily homes in the city of Houston don't have any access to recycling at all. Second, we're expanding collection and sorting capabilities to make sure that all types of plastics are included, not just the easy ones, so that we can take advantage of some of these new technologies. And then finally, we're working on education through the school systems and beyond to increase awareness on what is recycling, what the benefits are, and hopefully making it easier for residents to recycle. So think about putting all your plastics into one bag. We have a few projects that we're launching as part of this over the coming months, and hopefully will make a significant impact on the recycling rates. And we hope that this project that we're doing in the fourth largest city in the country can serve as a beacon for other cities across the nation as well as around the world. So I want to thank Andy and Director Mark Wilfock, the new solid waste director of the city, for helping to make this unique collaboration a reality. So I've mentioned technology. We talked a little bit about infrastructure, and I want to end with policy. To further accelerate the kinds of technology advancements that I've talked about, and even more to come, policy is needed at both the national and the local level. We need policies that encourage more investment in mechanical and advanced recycling. And quite frankly, we need policies that fully recognize advanced recycling as a sustainable economic solution that can make a real difference. There are too many states that are trying to ban advanced recycling, and we just don't understand that. Policies that bring communities together. Policies that provide access to recycling programs on an equitable basis for all the residents. And on this front, we're glad to see new recycling funding available to cities from the EPA, as well as the potential for new EPR funding mechanisms, which can help fund collection systems and sorting for all kinds of materials, not just plastics, but paper, glass, and others. And finally, I think we need thoughtful policies that take into account the full life cycle benefits of the products that our industry produces. And so we don't end up with arbitrary bans on products that could really have an impact on limiting the critical and sometimes life-saving benefits that our products provide to society. So I'd like to finish with one of my favorite pictures. It's the, we lost the picture. That's her. Oh, maybe it's still there. I'd like to finish today with two thoughts. First, the employees and management of ExxonMobil are committed to helping society increase the amount of plastic that can be recycled. We're committed to scaling technology here in Houston, where it all started for us, and on a global basis. And second, we know it's going to be more about than just the technology. It's going to take new infrastructure, as well as new collaborations that reach across the full value chain. From the plastic producers to the waste management companies, to the brands, to the converters, to the municipalities and the local governments. I'm confident that with the talent and the industry, particularly the talent in the industry that we have here in the Gulf Coast region, as well as progressive legislative action, that we can make plastic circularity a reality for Texas, the nation, and hopefully the world. Thank you. So I think we have 5 minutes for questions. There's a question around what are the expected uses of recycled plastics, and I think the next question is around sorry, my eyesight's going. The jobs that we've created in the advanced recycling project in Baytown. So what are the uses of recycled plastic? So, when we look at advanced recycling, because we're taking it back to the basic building blocks, the ethylene, the propylene, you can really do a lot with it, right? You can take it into pretty much anything you want, right? And I think this is one of the powers of actually leveraging our petrochemical facilities that we have here in the Gulf Coast. These are amazing machines, a lot of chemistry, right? Plastic waste is just another feedstock. In fact, in many ways, it's an easier feedstock to handle than some of the other feedstocks that we handle. And so, we're a big proponent of looking at this as a resource and convert it into, quite frankly, whatever is the most valuable product we can get out of it. We think today, plastic, our customers are demanding more circular products. they're willing to pay a premium for more circular products. And so this is an economic opportunity, and we look forward to growing that market. In terms of the people, it's really heartening to actually go to the Baytown facility, and we've got the engineer of the advanced recycling facility here at the table, and yeah, I think he's a Gen Z, and just see the amount of passion that we ignite in the workforce when we actually get into some of these sustainable processes that are economic, doing the right thing for the planet, and are sustainable over the longer term, and actually, quite frankly, give us some competitive advantage. And so I think, we've had our advanced recycling team, including the people at the plant and the technology folks, we probably get about 100 people working on it now, and that's just here in the US. We've got other teams around the world that are starting to gear up and deliver a whole series of projects that we're pretty excited about. So the next question is around what percentage of plastics can be recycled. I don't really know, to tell you the truth, but we think it's probably north of 90%. This is feedstock, right? This is hydrocarbon feedstock. And so, we think through, deploying the right technologies, using the right equipment, and quite frankly, leveraging the assets that we already have on the ground, we can probably recycle 90% of the chemistries that are out there. The challenge, though, the big challenge in all of this, and it's the hardest part of the equation, is getting access to the feedstock. It's the collection system, it's the sorting systems. We always say, we can recycle plastic, we can't recycle trash, right? And so it's that process of getting the sorted materials to our facilities so that we can actually process it into valuable things. So I think we're done with time. Thank you very much for your attention. Appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you at the break.